Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Weighing In podcast. And guys, I'm lucky enough to be joined by a former world champion, Miesha Tate. And we've been longtime friends, and I want to welcome you to the Weighing In podcast. We've had you on before, but I think this time it's just the two of us. Or I think it's before we had Big John with us, and we had other people on. But thank you so much for joining us for this UFC's pay-per-view breakdown.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When you reached out, I was like, yeah, of course. Let's do
I,
this.
I couldn't think of another. I couldn't think of a bigger fight to really put together, except for the Valentina and Wei Lee fight. I was like, who could I actually call to give me a female's perspective on these fights? Because there's a lot of testosterone in the sport of MMA. So I said,
Yeah, fair to
call
say.
somebody who can give me some advice on what's going through these females' minds when they make this walk.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm excited for the open title, I mean it's cool that Mackenzie is there. I think I kind of saw it coming for Virna just because I've just always thought she was so talented, but really I think the evolution of Verna's of Dern, excuse me, has been just pretty incredible, to be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, she really kind of came in as this wild, like slinging, grappler, and she's still high volume, but she's cleaned up her act quite a bit, and I mean, I admire it. I love that she's in there fighting for a title.
Let's not get into that fight just yet, but let's go ahead and talk first about the main event. You've got Tom Aspinall versus Gane. Now, both these guys obviously in the heavyweight division. John Jones being, gone now from the heavyweight division, leaving 205, going to heavyweight, capturing the title against Gane. But then now also too, like he's kind of vacated this area where Tom's been waiting for that fight. What was your take on everything that was going on with Tom Aspinall and John Jones before we even get into breaking down this fight?
Uh, I mean, I don't like to accuse anybody of dodging anybody in a sport that's just, we come here to glove up and throw down. And I don't think anybody's necessarily scared, but I think John is smart. I think is very intelligent. And so to compliment him, I think the only thing logically that makes sense to me from an outsider's perspective is that he realized it's not a good matchup and he'd rather, you know, leave his mark somewhere else than to, return with this highly anticipated return of his and fight someone like Aspinall. It's not a smart move. So I think he's just, taking that all into account.
Yeah, as the sport grows, what we've noticed is that it's becoming a young man's sport and a young female sport. It's like the athletes are getting better at a younger age because they've grown up, competing in wrestling and judo, jujitsu. Like, I mean, I've owned gyms,
Hmm.
and some of these kids that I trained, I mean, they're fantastic at like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. It's like, man, if I would have had this knowledge when I was this, how much better would I have been? But hey, it's also something to be said
Yeah.
about being the pioneer of the sport, right? It's kind of we're kind of
How old
we
were you
are.
when you started?
How well, so I was
How old are
16.
you?
My grandmother took me into a jiu-jitsu gym when I was 16. I started learning Muay Thai at the same jiu-jitsu gym. And yeah, I wrestled though since I was a kid, 3, 4, or 5 years old, But pretty much
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu didn't start until I was 16. So
Yeah, see, so I mean, these kids are just, they've got a leg up on us in all the departments. My kids are 5 and 7, they're
yeah.
already doing jujitsu and wrestling. It's like, man, but I mean, that's good. That's what I want to see. I want to see the evolution of the sport continue to elevate, especially as, the females, like we kind of had to break down those doors. Now it's up to the ladies coming up to kind of carry that torch.
How I I know this is not about the pay-per-view, but how good was it to hear or to see the reality of when Dana had said, when Strikeforce and UFC were going through their thing, and somebody asked Dana, like, when are we going to see females in the UFC? And he's like, never. And then literally like a couple of years later, here we are. Like here you were, you were there leading
Yeah.
the charge along, with Rhonda and other females. But wasn't it kind of nice to be like, oh wow, we're here. This is for real. We're not going anywhere now.
Yeah, I will never forget the day that I got the call from Dana. I mean, I was just shocked that Dana would even call me. I was, I had hyperextended my arm in my fight against Ronda, and I refused to tap. So I'm like sitting there, in a sling, trying to take care of this injury. And Dana literally calls me and is like, oh, you might want to sit down, like I'm going to give you a really big bonus, which was like more than I had ever made in my entire career combined.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, we're bringing women to the UFC. And I was like, wow. I mean, just to get, to get that confirmation, because I wasn't sure, I went in there fighting for not just myself and my title, but hopefully for the future of women's MMA. As you remember, Strikeforce being dissolved into the UFC. And we didn't know what that meant for the lighter weight guys. And we didn't know what it really meant for anybody, but we definitely thought it might mean the end of, the opportunity for growth for women's MMA. Because up until that point, Dana, like you said, loud and proud, have been telling everybody that women will never be in the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, you guys broke the mold. You really did. I know that it was Gina Carano and Chris Cyborg, were able to, the first females to headline on a major, promotion, a major network in MMA, but it was literally like you and Ronda that really kind of carried it over into the UFC, and just that animosity you guys had towards each other, or just a little beef, or everyone needs a nemesis, right? Like I had Gilbert Melendez and Gilbert had myself, and you had Ronda and Ronda had you. And like it just kind of, I feel like those type of fights carried the female division into the UFC and women's MMA period, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was, I think that the difference was that Ron and I had so, we were so, like, had our rivalry, but we were also competitive,
Mm,
Obviously, she was better than me, but I still showed up, enough to, like, push her and to make the fight exciting and not just be like a 1 minute,
yeah.
armbar. And so, I think that was kind of the turning point for Dana, because he was like, before that, it was like, "Oh, I've just only seen these terrible mismatches, and I don't wanna bring that, I
Mhm.
don't want that to be a part of the UFC." So, yeah, looking back on it, it was an exciting time for me. Getting that call from Dana, I was like, "Oh, all right, good news bears."
You have been very kind of, I wouldn't say vocal, but they, a lot of people have asked you like how many more fights you have left, this and that. But on the flip side, you have Ronda now looking to try to potentially come back into this. What's your take on her coming in as you're kind of thinking about wrapping things up?
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or whatnot. I've been seeing the rumors floating around. So I don't know. Like, do you know if that's actually confirmed?
So I don't think it's not confirmed that she's been signed to fight anything, but
Yeah,
everything that I'm hearing is that there's only one fight that she's really coming back for, and it sounds like the Gina Carano fight. So they need to fight a way for them to. It's going to be down the line. It's not going to happen in the next 6 months. It probably won't happen. It may happen at the end of next year or wherever, but it's not looking to happen anytime soon. Both of them have to get back in fight ready shape, and both of them have, obviously it'll be a long press tour for it all. So it's
yeah.
going to take some time for a fight
She
like
doesn't
that.
want to try to like to fight Kayla. Like if Kayla wins, she's not talking about that.
I think just the removal from the sport, it's been
Yeah.
10 years. I mean, think about that. It's been 10 years, what, 9, 10 years, something like that.
Has it
So
really been that long? Damn.
why try to fight someone who's been active, who
Yeah.
is a two-time judo gold medalist? Everything you do well, she does just as well, if better, you could say. And it would make it
Yeah.
a very tough fight. And especially if it was your first fight back. I mean, do you want a
No,
tune-up
I
fight?
I get it, but I just figured they would just, I just knowing Rhonda's personality, I just figured that's what she would go for. But that's
Mm,
interesting. I didn't even heard anything about the Gina Carano fight.
yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out whether I'm fighting again yet or not. So, as far as I go, like I'm just taking it easy right now,
What
seeing
what's
how
the
the body holds up.
what's the process of that look like? What is it really kind of coming down to in making your decision making?
I think it's just giving my heart time to figure it out. I've learned that these things just cannot be rushed when you're making a decision that is going to affect, the trajectory of your life. My health and well-being is becoming more and more important to me.
Mhm.
And the sacrifices that I have to make as a parent is really tough. It's never been easy. But you know, when the weight that fighting carries for me in my personal journey, when it was just, so important to me, then it's kind of like it's worth the trade-off. But the more that I do this and the more that my kids are getting older and the more that I'm just like, man, like where's the time going? It just
Yeah.
gets a little bit harder for me to want it as much as I did in prior parts of my life, which I think is a natural evolution. And so I'm not trying to fight it. I I I genuinely love being a mom. I genuinely am so looking forward to my next chapter. I'm doing a lot of other things that I feel like can already make money. So it's not even about that for me. So it's just like it just has to feel right. And
Mhm.
I'm just a little bit in that limbo stage where I'm like, I just don't know if fighting again is right. And I don't know if not fighting again is right. So we're just kind of letting it marinate right now.
Yeah, it's good to take the time, and you've seen a lot of professional athletes when they lose, like, say, in the playoffs, right? They're like, "I'm not making any decisions now. I'm gonna give it some time." And they take a couple months, and they take their time to really soak it all in.
Yeah.
Because for me, like, I never announced my retirement until about a year after. I already knew when I walked out of the cage after my last fight, I was like, "This is it. I'm done." But I wanted to let it sit. I went to the gym, went back to AKA several times and, had some training. I was like, "Yeah, this just isn't for me anymore." Maybe I had a negative outlook on it all, but I enjoyed the training aspect of it, but I also knew that if I was gonna move on with my life, I had to get out of the gym.
Hmm.
It's easy to get caught. I see guys that I train with that are still there, 10 years later, and they were never in the UFC. They're just still in the gym every day as if it's like a job, but they're not really making any money doing it. And I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" Like, they're just
Yeah.
there every day, just getting
Yeah.
punched in the head.
Sometimes it's time to just put some eggs in another basket.
Yeah.
Like,
But
right?
they've been there since, like, the beginning of my career, and they're still there, but they never made it to the UFC, never made it to, a couple they had a couple maybe 1 or 2 fights in Strikeforce on the prelims, and they're still there. They're not really
Yeah.
coaching, they're just kinda there sparring and hanging out and getting work in, and I'm like, "Man, like, okay, is this it? This is what the whole life is?" And yeah, some people just love it. I just knew that, like, if I wanted to move on with my life, I had to leave the gym.
Yeah.
I got the dad bod now because of it. Once you leave the gym, it's it's all downhill from there. Extra a couple little chins and extra layers. But anyways, I'm looking whatever decision you make, just take the time on it. I took a whole year, maybe a little bit longer than that, and it was worth it. Let it marinate, let it
Yeah.
yeah.
For me, I think when I fought Julia, I really feel like Julia Vila in December 2023, I feel like that was the best version of me that I've ever been. And I wanted to test myself again. I really wanted to build on that,
Mhm.
but the truth is I tore two ligaments in my knee in that fight, and
Mm,
I had to have reconstructive surgery, and it put me out off the mats for like 14 months. And it just what it's just not the same as it was before. And so I really pushed myself to come back and just try to see like could I even it kind of actually became more of like, can I get over this physical barrier? Can I do it again? And I did. And that was a huge win for me. But, I lost to Yana, who I think is great, and I've been seeing her continue to like, evolve, and she did really well against Chesson, and I was surprised because I thought a big, tall, lanky girl like that might give her some trouble.
yeah.
But no, I mean, she did great against me. She did great against Macy. So I mean, it's nothing against her, but I just feel like in my, that was kind of like a litmus test for me, and it was just like, okay, like physically, it was just really challenging. Like, not everything came back to me at that time. And so it's like, do I just need more time to get my timing back? Or is it time to just be like, hey, the ship has sailed. You've got a major career injury. And this is the crazy part. Like when you're making a decision like this, um, I had the worst injury of my career, bar none. And I had a fight that had two 10-8 rounds and a round three submission. I finished. It was like
Yeah.
the most dominant I've ever been in any fight in my entire life. And I ended up with the most debilitating, long lasting injury. So that's just, the truth is like you can get so hurt even in the fights that you totally dominate.
Yeah. It's very true, 100%. Yeah, like, you just what it is once you get hurt, you almost like throw caution to the wind. It's like, look, I've got reasons now for a way out, but you don't need them because you're just going to keep pushing. Like when I fought Benson Henderson, I tore all the ligaments in my thumb all the way up into my wrist. I literally broke
Mm,
the bone in two places. I had to have two pins put in it, and they cut me open and all the way up to my wrist, and had to basically restructure my whole thumb. And even to this day, I can't make a full grip around someone's wrist because it actually just extends out like that. So like my other one is like super tight. That's as far as it goes. And this one will actually almost bend backwards. It's gross.
Yeah.
So it is
Yeah.
what it is, like, yeah, just getting through the process of mentally understanding that you're injured. And then on top of that, being able to work forward. But hey, let's go ahead and jump right into the main event. Let's talk about this card. I want to get your opinion, obviously, on the co-main, but on the main event, Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane. Talk to me. How do you see this fight going? Where do you see Tom's advantages, and where do you see Cyril Gane's advantages?
Well, I think that this fight really boils down to how Aspinall wants to fight Gane. And I don't want to take credibility away from Gane. It's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to, talk shit about any fighter. But I mean, let's be honest. I really think that this is Aspinall's fight. That's what I believe. I think that should Aspinall choose to engage on the feet, he might hurt him, but he might get hurt back. I think that Gane is a great defensive striker. I think he does a really good job of kind of like moving away with punches to take the sting off of him. And I mean, he lands his shots really well, but he hasn't really improved in his grappling. And we've
Mhm.
seen him against, a few guys where you're kind of like hoping that he'll show those improvements. And I haven't seen it. So I think that, Aspinall again has a very high fight IQ. I think that is actually one of his best attributes, on top of his physicality and his techniques and his sharpness. He's very, very smart. So I don't think that he's going to play the striking game for any longer than he needs to. I think he's going to close the distance and look to get it to the ground. But if this does go into the latter rounds, around 3, 4, 5, I mean, we're kind of it's uncharted territory. So I mean, maybe we could have some room for, we don't know what's going to happen. But otherwise, I think we could pretty much bank on Aspinall being the sharp dude that he is, and the not up and comer, because I feel like he's already here, but he's just continuing to evolve. He's continuing to get better every single time we see him. So I think he'll go out there and wrestle him. I honestly think it's going to be like a second round.
It's very
Submission.
rare. It's very rare that we see heavyweights that move like Tom Aspinall with the
Yeah.
athleticism, the lateral movement, the speed with his hands, his ability to get the fights to the ground. But the most rare thing that I see out of him is his ground game is fantastic. And heavyweights outside of like Fabricio Verdum or Nogueira, they didn't really. A lot of heavyweights don't have ground games. It's very rare for a heavyweight to have good wrestling. That's why DC and Kane were so dominant when they were champions or when they were heavyweights. Is because they're wrestling. It's like heavyweights have a tendency to not want to be wrestlers or not want to grapple. It's a lot of work. They don't want to put in that daily grind. Like they want to stand, they want to use their power, they want to knock guys out. That's realistically what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times we've had heavyweights in the gym from Mike Kyle, Paul Bonatello, LeVar Johnson, like all these top level heavyweights, but they never really wanted to focus on the wrestling aspect of it all. They wanted to stand, they wanted to trade, they wanted to bang. That made great fights for us as fans, right? I mean, but when you get to this level where you want to be a dominant champion, guys like Tom Aspinall, I feel like he's going to be there for a while. There's like guys like Gelton Almeida who have the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu. I think they could maybe stump him a little bit, but we can see that Gelton Almeida has got great takedowns and he's got great submissions, but can he stand it all with Tom Aspinall? I don't know if he can. So, and I think Tom will be able to kind of nullify his grappling. But in this fight, I think with Cyril Gane's one of those guys, like he's going to have to stay on his bike the whole time. He's going to have to create lateral movement. And he's going to have to punch off of that movement. And if he can't punch off the movement and be effective with it, Tom doesn't need to respect his striking either, because Cyril's going to be so afraid of the takedown that it's going to end up it's going to work against him when it comes to his striking. At least that's my perspective on it.
I think so too. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. He's got to be very productive with a defensive striking while minding his P's and Q's, not getting out of position. And he's got to be able to land the shots, and hurt Aspinall. I think that's really that's the path to victory. And I don't think he has as many options when it comes to winning the fight as I would say Aspinall does. So
yeah, well, look, I got a lot of respect for Michael Bisping. And when Michael Bisping was talking about Tom Aspinall early in his career, he's like, this kid has the full package. He's got the work ethic. He wants it. He wants to be the best. And The fact that he wasted a whole year and a half, waiting around for John, it bothers me.
Mhm.
But then also too, I mean, from what I understand, he was married to the gym during that time. He just kept trying to get ready for John, kept trying to get ready for John, and that means that he was getting better. Maybe not fight better in terms of like real fight speed better, but he was picking up new tools and new weapons along the way. So I think Cyril Gane is going to be in a lot of trouble. I don't see this fight really getting outside of round two. I'm with you on that
Yeah.
page. I don't see it getting out of round two. My only concern with Tom is how much will he strike with him when he doesn't need to. Like, go
Mhm.
ahead and let's get this thing right to the wrestling. Make Gane hesitant from the jump, and then that'll open up the striking as well as the grappling and the wrestling.
Yeah, I think so too. So
You have the title fight, the female title fight, Virna Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern. Both of them are fantastic grapplers. Both of them have gotten a lot better on the feet. This is a rematch, by the way. And I actually went back and watched the fight just the other day. And I actually thought that Jandiroba won the first fight. And I know it was a close fight, so I'm not going to say it was a robbery by any means. But I actually had Jandiroba winning the first fight. And in this fight here, Mackenzie to me has gotten a lot better on the feet in terms of her willingness to strike and punch from range. But what has not gotten better with her is her ability to get takedowns. She has
yeah.
no wrestling. And you would think somebody with this level of jujitsu would make it a priority to utilize, like to learn wrestling, bring in a world-class wrestler to spend, a full 6 months, a year, whatever it is, to avoid takedowns and also to get takedowns. In this fight, I feel like she has the speed advantage on the feet if she could stuff Jandiroba's takedowns and use her boxing. But look, Jandiroba's gotten so much better on the feet since their last fight. How do you see this fight going?
I think we agree on all the points that you've mentioned. I think Dern, I personally, I love the way that she strikes. It's all too near and dear to my heart. I love it because it's not perfect. It's not a kickboxing style, but she closes distance well. And she is relentless on the feet, which I love the pressure. And I love the volume she puts out. She's got a lot going on, so she's constantly bringing the heat. I think she's cleaned up her striking a lot. So now I think it's this kind of polished chaos inside there, which I think is great for a grappling style. And I think that for the most part, Mackenzie's just never afraid of being taken down. So she'll just march people down and swing for the fences, and she just doesn't care. Like if she gets taken down, she's like, well, great, this is where I want to be. So she ends up on the ground more often, because of these wild exchanges. And I wouldn't say that her wrestling is so great, but she doesn't care how it gets to the ground.
Mhm.
Like she'll pull guard. She doesn't care. I think a stat on her successful takedowns is something like 7%. But but
Oh
but
man.
but but like how many submissions does she have? She has a lot. I don't know. I'm counting. Like maybe you can pull it up real quick.
I,
But what's so weird is like it finds its way to the ground and she's a savage there. Now the problem is so is Verna.
yeah.
And I kind of think I think that if this was a straight up grappling match, I'd give Dern the
Yeah.
advantage. But in the grappling for MMA, I kind of think that Verna is maybe better in the grappling for an MMA rule set
Hmm.
because she'll fight for top position more.
Hmm.
And she's aggressive on her takedowns, and she has more takedowns. So what I see happening is that Mackenzie comes out with a high volume. She's pushing that pace. Okay. Verna gets a takedown because Mackenzie doesn't care. And Verna is good enough to stay out of the subs.
Yeah.
She's
Very
definitely
true.
good enough to stay out of the subs. So, I mean, very least I think it's a safe bet to say that Verna could win a decision.
5 rounds. Their first fight was only
Yeah.
three, but in this situation, I look at Mackenzie Dern and I think to myself, like, you can't afford to be on the bottom of Virna, only because she does apply the pressure really
Hmm.
well. She's able to start doing some damage from there. Her ground and pound's not super aggressive, but it's actually, to be honest, it's better than Mackenzie Dern's. Like Mackenzie's
Hmm.
a lot of flailing ground and pound, and this is not a knock on her. It's just that she is more position over, like she's more submission position than it is like position and ground and pound. She's
Yeah.
choosing to position herself to attack and get submissions. That's very hard to do in MMA. Like you need to punch your way into submissions a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think when she gets a top position, she's busy. Like she
Mhm.
tries to be busy and she'll do like a lot of distracting strikes, But you're right, she's absolutely looking for any opening to get the submission, where I feel like when Virna is choosing her striking, I think she has more intention to actually hurt people with it, in the ground and pound, and then she'll take a sub, sure, but, she wants to really hurt you when you're underneath her.
The takeaway that I have on Mackenzie Dern with her striking, I love that she has volume. I love that she's aggressive with it. My concern with her is that she punches with her chin up in the air. Now,
Yeah, she does.
not that Verna has the knockout power, but like it does put Mackenzie. She's been in trouble before because she's taken some big shots by backing up with her chin in the air and by approaching her shots with her chin in the air. Those are things that she needs to
Mhm.
remedy, and that should be those are something that I hope that she's been working on to fix. And the wrestling, whether it's judo or sambo style takedowns, something along the body locks, not always chasing double legs, but
Yeah.
working to a body lock position where there's less damage to be done. Because you can tell that she's extremely athletic, and the elbows and the knees and all this will start working for her if she just learns to work from those positions.
Yeah, and that's something that I would say that differs a lot between my striking style generally is like head forward. I'm kind of gonna like come into you with a strong neck, and I'm looking for to tie up some way or to get a double leg. But some people who like more of the trips and throws, like Rhonda, for example, often was more chin up because they're looking to lead with their hips first, and they're trying to get a hold of a head. And I do see that with Mackenzie a ton is that she's throwing, but she's trying to grab something to lead with her hips. When you lead with your hips, your head, oftentimes is up, and that's one of the payoffs, or the trade-offs, I should say, for that style of trying to close distance with the hips first.
The My other takeaway on this fight is that maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like I look at Verna, she's a very composed fighter. Whereas in a 5 round fight, that could work against Mackenzie Dern because she's a very sporadic fighter. She fights a lot with emotion. She comes forward,
Hmm.
she's overly aggressive. Like when she hurts somebody, she flails more and doesn't pick and choose her shots. And that has a tendency to sometimes make you a lot more tired. Whereas Verna, like she will stalk after you. There's no real wasted movement on her efforts to get the fight to the ground. And when she does get there, she's not overly rushing to get to the submission, which in all fairness is more exciting to watch Mackenzie Dern on the ground because she's always fishing for the submission and the sweep and the submission and the attack. But Verna is very composed and always trying to get to the position slow, methodically, like a true jujitsu practitioner that wears a gi. Slowly they're passing, slowly they're in mount. Then all of a sudden they're on the arm. In a 5 round fight, I think it favors Verna a lot more because Dern is so sporadic with her movements and wasted movements.
Yeah. Yeah, but she's tenacious and she's got the heart of a lion, so it's just like I think that's what is so fun about watching Dern fight,
Mhm.
honestly, is like I really can honestly say that every single fight of hers that I've ever watched, I've really enjoyed. Whether she and I'm a fan of her because I love the way that she just goes for it. And it's not always the most logical, but sometimes logical is boring, it's fun to watch her because she just wants it so bad that she's willing to throw caution to the wind. She's willing to take that, to literally just get socked in the face.
Yeah.
And she doesn't care, like she's coming for it. And so I think no matter what, I've always loved watching her fight. She's very exciting.
And that's very difficult to get that from someone who's come up training jiu-jitsu. Like they're very cautious normally when they enter because they don't want to get hit with something. She just, like you said, throws caution to the wind.
Hmm.
And like you said, it jiu-jitsu fighters when they first come in, they have a tendency to be boring. They're so methodical in how they get in on the takedowns. They don't want to lose position. She has not been that way at all. At all.
Yeah.
Can you give me a little like because like this is a vacant title. Both of them now they're fighting. They've already fought before in your rematches and for titles in this position, like what's going through their mind leading in? Are they thinking about the fight that happened before, or has too much time passed? And how much more pressure is it on them now? Because the first one was a 3 round, this one is a 5 round.
I'm sure both of them have it in the back of their mind about the first fight. I mean, you've been in there with someone, you're going to try to draw on that experience, but um, you can't fixate on it. So I don't know how much either one. I think that they're both evolved a ton in the sport, and you have to you have to take your past experience and acknowledge it, but you've got to move on and be ready for an entirely different fight. You absolutely can't think that you have it figured out based off of any single fight. So I imagine that both these ladies at this point in their career understand and acknowledge that they're really going to be kind of getting in there with evolved versions of each other. So it's that combination, you know, to draw a little bit on what you have your experience, but also understand that this is different. And I imagine if you're Virna, you know, there's just like, there's got to be a little added pressure to not only want to get it back, you know, like rematches just weren't, I don't know, you've had rematches before. You might even be able to draw on this a little more than I did, but I think yours were closer together.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like you do have that familiarity with that person. You know, but yeah, I mean, I think you just got to go for like be ready for anything basically.
Yeah. It's going to be a great fight. I think both of them though are going to come in aggressive. They're both going to have it's going to be a great fight. I really feel like whoever can avoid the submissions and push the pace into rounds 4 and 5 in the championship rounds, I think is going to have the success. I see this fight going the distance. They'll nullify each other on the ground, and I think on the feet too. I think Virna can take a really good shot. I don't think she has the power either to put out Mackenzie Dern. So I think you're going to end up seeing a 5-round fight, but it's going to be a damn good fight. Damn good fight.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I've got Verna by Virna by decision.
I wasn't going to put you on the spot, but yeah, I could see Virna win this. And she's also been, she seems to be like she's, like I said, getting better every single time. So
yeah.
We have another fight in the bantamweight division. We've got Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Bautista. Umar coming off of his hand being broken, fighting Marab for the title, coming up short. Mario Bautista coming off of a great performance over Patchy Mix. Like, how do you see this fight going?
Well, I know Mario's been the underdog, and I feel like people are sleeping on him a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that I think he's going to win this fight, because if I had to pick, I'm probably saying Umar is going to take a decision on this one. But I've just been impressed with Bautista. You know, even in the fights that he's lost, much less the ones he's won. You know, he has a win over Patchy Mix, who's a teammate of mine. Who, you know, I see him in the gym. I know that in the UFC he really hasn't showed up the way that I've seen him in past fights, and the way that I see him training in the gym. I think some health issues, you know, unfortunately before his fights, just have made those performances a little lackluster. But point in case is, I know that he's really talented, and he's a much more difficult person to deal with. You know, one of those people that doesn't, when you watch him from the outside, you're like, I don't know if they're, you know, and then you feel the way that they move and the way that their pressure is, like, that's Patchy. He's just deceivingly good. So I know he's good. And you know, the way Bautista performed against him was just like, holy shit, like, this guy is legit. He's got excellent cardio. His hands are really good. And I think he's going to give Umar Nurmagomedov more trouble than people think. You know, he's got, you know, he's switches stance a lot, right? Out there at range. He's got good boxing. You know, and he looked solid against Sandhagen. So I think with his grappling advantage, I still think that he's going to take it. But I think it's going to be a good fight. I definitely think it's closer than people are acknowledging.
I've trained with Umar since he was 19 years old, but I'm also on your bandwagon, saying, simply put, that Batista is going to give him more troubles than people are thinking. I just interviewed Umar just last week, and the conversation was, I said, this is a very tough fight. I said, I want him to understand. He's like, no, I understand. He's like, I really do. He's like, our whole focus was just realizing that because Batista maybe doesn't have a huge name, or because there's not a lot of spotlight on him and people are overlooking him. He's like, I'm not overlooking him at all. Like, he's somebody that I know he can wrestle. He's got pretty good stand up. He's not the most exciting fighter. So he's like, I got to take the fight to him and not let him get settled into fighting at his pace. He's like, I've got to take the action to him. So it's going to be a great fight. I think, like you said, people are overlooking him. So before I let you go, I want to hit up a couple fan questions. Some people that have some questions for you. So if we can do that real quick, go ahead, Dave.
Yep. Alejandro Gutierrez asked Miesha, what does the UFC do if Gane wins? Does the strength of schedule favor Gane over Tom's lack of octagon activity?
Oh, that's a good question. Can you say it one more time?
What does the UFC do if Gane wins? Does the strength of the schedule favor Gane over Tom's lack of octagon activity?
What does the UFC do?
Yeah. I
I
think
don't
it just
know.
means from like a marketing standpoint, perhaps because if Gane's more active than Tom.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, he has been. So I don't know how to answer that one. Help me out here.
I don't think it favors. Look, I think that Tomo is going to be a lot more active now that the John Jones fight is off the table. I really believe that he's looking to fight whenever and whoever he can. He lost a year and a half of his career waiting for the
Oh,
John fight. So I think it doesn't matter
absolutely.
if it's Gone or it's Tom. Both of them are going to be put in a position to have to defend that title a lot.
Yeah.
You know, what
Let me
else you
hit
got?
it. Yep, let's hit this next one. Zeke662 asks, Miesha, if you can go back, where do you prefer to fight? In the UFC or Strikeforce, and why?
Oh, man.
I put her on the pressure.
Oh, I love
Oh,
that. No, that's a great question. I was like thinking back to my experience in Strikeforce, you know, I think if I had the opportunity to go back and just like live those good old days one more time, it was definitely more of the hungry years, and I like that. I would definitely take an opportunity to go back into the Strikeforce days before women had really arrived and just, you know, reminisce in that, experience that again. There's just something really special about that time because we were still trying to break through the glass ceiling and the barriers and the no's and the will never be's. And I think because of that, there was an element of added excitement for women's MMA that you may never truly see again because these women coming into the UFC uh, have never experienced not having that as even an option. We couldn't even like fathom getting there. Remember when I first started, it was like I just it wasn't even an option. So I just remember fighting so hard to change the minds of people, and it put an extra drive, an extra gear for me to try to show up and not only show talent but entertainment. I knew that I had to entertain. I knew that my job wasn't it was not secure in any way, shape, or form, and I was still trying to get to that next echelon. So I think I would love that opportunity.
I felt like the Strikeforce, Bellator, and UFC that was the golden era of MMA because Showtime was in the mix, right? It was like first TV deals, CBS, like it was, and then you had Spy, you had all these promotions or all these networks that
Yeah,
were starting to get involved and it was wanting to be big, and so it just felt like we were making progress. I think that's what made it so special during that time.
yeah, agreed.
Dave,
All
what?
right, hey, with us, last one from AZ Ray. Hey, Miesha, as a women's MMA pioneer, what are your thoughts on the current state of women's MMA?
Oh, I mean, I'm glad that there's more weight classes. That's great. I think I'd like to see these divisions like I feel like we are on the precipice of another big surge because I feel like it's been in a lull. It's been a little bit kind of quiet. We quite haven't quite had the rivalries. We haven't quite had the these mix-ups. We've had long reigning champions, flyweight and even at 115. So now that there's some shakeup, right? This belt's coming alive here tonight. I think Dern is a really fun fighter to watch. I think Virna is great. So it's exciting. That's a vacant belt. We're getting some shakeups here. We're going to see Whaley go up to 125, and I feel like all of that is going to be very exciting. And it's also exciting, the potential of Ronda coming back. It's exciting. Kayla, I mean, becoming a new champion. I feel like this is like the beginning of this great wave of excitement and mix up, and I think that's really what women's MMA needs right now. So I'm just excited to see as it continues to evolve, and there's a lot of really talented young women that are coming through. I know at Extreme Couture and many other places that are going to continue to elevate the game.
I never thought I'd say this, but I think them leaving ESPN for a CBS / Paramount deal this couldn't have come at a perfect time. This is the time when they needed something new, some fresh news, something to really catapult these fighters into that next echelon of like being able to be free to watch the pay-per-views, like pay-per-view level shows on CBS. that's going to create a lot of star power for all the fighters. And so I'm excited for that, because this is what the sport needed right now. They needed a major network to get behind them. It went full circle, right? Strikeforce was with CBS and Showtime, and now the ESPN, or not ESPN, but UFC is now with CBS and Paramount, which is going to be huge for, I think, the athletes.
Yeah, agreed.
Hey guys, I want to just say thank you, Miesha. Thank you so much for joining us, doing the fight breakdowns for us, and like I'm trying to have you on a lot more often if you can.
All right, sounds good. I appreciate it. It was fun. Always good catching up with you, Josh.
You too. Have a good one. We'll talk soon, hon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. All right, guys. We want to go ahead and finish up, wrapping up on the pay-per-view card. And look, we got into the Virna and Jandaroba fight, and we got into the Umar Bautista fight. Like I said, I had a great conversation with Umar, and if you guys haven't seen that interview, go check it out. It's available. We just posted it, I think, 3 days ago. So go check that interview out. And look, Umar's got his hands full, and I wanted to make it very clear when I did the interview, and I actually talked to him a lot off air before we actually filmed. We talked for about probably almost an hour before we even filmed. And just simply put, he's got a lot of respect for Mario Bautista. He understands how good he is. He understands that Mario is going to be very tough in terms of the wrestling. He's going to be very tough in the boxing area. He doesn't kick a whole lot, but he's going to go ahead and put some pressure on him. But I think the lateral movement of Umar, I think the switching of stances, keeping Bautista guessing, never being in the same spot at the same time, like, moving, striking, keeping long with the long range striking is going to be a problem too, I think, for Bautista. Obviously, you guys all know I'm going to go with Umar on this fight, but Bautista is a very tough fighter. It's going to be a very tough fight for Umar. He's got his work cut out for him. I just think overall, from the wrestling to the grappling, the speed, and the way he mixes up his kickboxing to his wrestling is going to be a problem for Mario Bautista. I think that ultimately will win him, and especially in a 3-round fight. I think Mario's not active enough in terms of his striking. He's not going to do too much to leave himself out of position, but Umar is going to go ahead and set the tempo of the pace of the fight. And he's going to try to push him to the point where, hey, his cardio is not going to be a problem. So look, Umar's got his eye on the prize. Got to get through this fight. I've got to focus on this fight. And after I get through this fight, I'm going to be fighting Merab, for the rematch. So that's more of, I think, what you're looking at. The focus and determination from Umar, I think, is set. But definitely, I think it's going to be a good fight. Keep an eye on that fight. You've got Alexander Volkov versus Gelatin Almeida. I think, obviously, we saw Gelatin Almeida throw Curtis Blades around like it was nothing. So he can wrestle. There's no doubt. He took him down, I think, 3 or 4 times or 4 or 5 times in the first round. It was insane how he ragdolled him around. And Curtis Blades can wrestle. But then he also gets fatigued. He gets tired from all that wrestling. He gets fatigued from trying to hold people down. His jiu-jitsu is really good as well. But can he get Volkov down? Which I think he can. Can Volkov survive the first round? I think Volkov can. So I think in this fight, it's going to come down to, it's a 3-round fight. Can Volkov can he get himself back up after he gets taken down? I think Gelatin Almeida can take him down, Volkov down in the first round, control him for the whole first round. How tired does Volkov get trying to get himself back up? So will round 2 look different than round 1? We've seen this before with Gelatin Almeida. He gets tired, and then all of a sudden he just takes you down and he lays on you. I actually think that Volkov's got too much experience for that to happen. I think Volkov should be able to get himself back up or avoid the takedown in round 2, possibly into round 3. And the striking, it's a clear difference on who's better in the striking. So Volkov is definitely the better striker. He's got that long range striking. He's going to be able to punch you and kick you from long range, where Almeida's going to struggle, I think, trying to close that distance. Maybe not in the first round, but in the second and the third, when they start getting a little bit more tired, if Volkov can keep this thing on the feet, he can get the win. But all of that being said, I'm going with Gelatin Almeida. I'm going with Gelatin Almeida. So you've got Alexander Rakic versus Mirzakhanov. This is going to be a great fight also. Look, Rakic, though, he's been struggling since his comeback. He's had 3 losses in a row. And it's just like, he's been in these fights. Like he's had moments in these fights where, like, damn, if he would have just landed that a little bit more, if he would have followed up a little bit more, he could have got that guy out of there. So it's not as if he's out of these fights, but Mirzakhanov is a tough fighter. So look, it's very hard after 3 losses in a row. If you're Rakic, your confidence is down. Like, you need something to really get you going. I don't know if Mirzakhanov is the guy to do it against, though. That's the problem. And so I could see maybe the UFC look when they're putting you against someone who's 15-0, they're looking and probably thinking like we got to build Mirzakhanov up off of somebody like a Rakic who's obviously showing trajectory going down, whereas Mirzakhanov is 15-0. So we can do something with that undefeated record. But I feel bad because Rakic to me is a very fun fighter to watch. He just has not been like the Jan Blachowicz fight, the Yuri fight, the Ankalaev fight. It's not like he's losing to chumps. These guys are former champions. All three of them former champions. So it's just one of those like, can he get over the hump? And Mirzakhanov is a guy you could say if he can get over it, it'd be great to get over on him because he's 15-0, and that puts you right into that talk and conversation of like, okay, maybe I deserve to be in this top 3, 5, whatever it is for another title shot or a chance at a title shot coming up after a win or two. So we're gonna find out in that fight. But Mirzakhanov is tough, man. Everything that he does everything very well, but I think he's gonna give problems to Rakic. If outside of all of those other fights on the card, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Look, I like the Ikram Aliskerov versus Young Park. Ikram's gonna have to get the takedown, control the top position. Park's gonna try to touch him on the chin and put him to sleep. That's really what this fight's gonna come down. I think Ikram will stand a little bit, get into some trading matches a tiny bit, but not too much. Look for him to utilize the wrestling right off the bat and put Young Park on the ground. And if he can do that, I think he wins the fight pretty easily. So, look, and I think for most of you guys that follow us or follow me, I keep saying us because, it's been 7-8 years of us doing that. It just comes down to if my dog walk pick of the week, for me, my dog walk pick of the week is probably going to be Ikram Aliskerov. So that's kind of who I'm going with. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. And I'm going to say that Virna Jandiroba gets it done. I think she ends up beating Mackenzie Dern. I went back and watched their first fight, and I actually thought it was a very close fight. So I don't think no one's going to complain, or I don't think anyone's complaining that Dern should have lost that fight. And I'm not. I'm saying like, hey, but I actually thought Virna won the fight, and I think this time in a 5-round fight, because she fights more composed, because she fights more relaxed, I think that Virna is going to end up getting it done. I think she's going to be able to control Dern. She's going to be able to make Dern waste energy in positions and spots that it will end up ultimately slowing Dern down enough to where the fight starts to be taken over by Jandiroba by rounds 4 and 5. So especially by towards the middle and the end of round 3 and then into rounds 4 and 5. I think Virna, she's just the machine, man. She's going to keep coming forward. She's going to keep pushing the pace, keep putting that heavy pressure on you, and she's going to get after it. So I think I'm leaning towards Jandiroba in that fight. Dave, we've got some news that we can go ahead and talk about, but go ahead and before we do that, I want to thank you guys so much for continuing to support the podcast. And I've read the comments. You guys, thank you so much for all the positive words. I had a couple people that actually posted in the comments saying, hey, they said, I commented 2 weeks ago that I was leaving the podcast, and then I actually listened to it, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to stay. So I want to thank you guys that are saying you guys are staying. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Hit that like and subscribe button. I've got some more stuff coming up. I've got Sean Brady tomorrow. He had to cancel on Monday because wife was homesick. But
he's tomorrow now?
Yeah, he's tomorrow now.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry.
He's Monday.
No. Tomorrow is Drew Dober. So okay. I got Drew Dober in the morning, and I've got
will Drew Dober be live, or will Drew Dober be posted?
Drew Dober's we're gonna film and record because it's gonna be early in the morning.
All right, so just keep your notifications on, guys, so we can let you know when that comes out.
Yes, please hit that bell, hit the thumbs up, and everything else. Give us the likes. I appreciate it, man. And like I said, next week is Sean Brady. That will be live at 2:00 next week. We're gonna go live for that at 2:00 next week. So if anything comes up and that changes, then I'll let you guys know. The other thing I'm going to say is this week, I will, right after the pay-per-view, I will not have a recap show that drops on Sunday morning early. I'm going to do a live on Sunday night with my buddy Angelo from We Want Picks and Bad Takes is our other podcast we do together, our other show we do together. We're going to go Sunday night. We're going to go live, do a full breakdown of the pay-per-view on Sunday Night Live. So make sure you guys set your calendars for that as well. That's why you hit the bell and the notifications so you guys can get that. You guys will know when we're going live. So that'll be on Sunday night. Because I will be at the SEC game, Texas A&M versus LSU in Louisiana. So that's a night game on Saturday. So I'm going to actually have to watch the fights afterwards, and we will film on Sunday night. All right, Dave, give me what you got, buddy.
So here's the deal. You're gonna have to answer some of these questions on behalf of Miesha, which I'm sure
Sorry,
you love. Nah, it was appreciate you guys. You guys like blew up the chat with fan questions, and we couldn't obviously get to them all. We had a limited time with Miesha, but Josh will do his best to help you out with them. First one is not from Miesha, and it came from Barrett Eastham, who asked, "How badly does Tom need to finish Gane?"
He doesn't need to finish him. Like, let's remember, he's been away from fighting, like inside that cage for a long period of time. He was waiting around for the John fight. Like, the UFC didn't want to jeopardize him potentially losing it. Like, freak accident. He fought Curtis Blade, stepped in to throw a kick, tore his knee. That could happen. And now all of a sudden you have a new champion and John's going, all right, well, I just lost my money fight. Now John doesn't want to fight. There's a reason why the UFC was having Tom wait. Like, look, John saying yes, he's going to do it. John saying yes, he's going to do it. It just didn't happen, and that's okay. I mean, it's not okay for Tom. That's the way I look at it, but it's okay. He can go ahead and now move on, and he can go ahead and live his career, and he can fight Cyril Gane. I don't think he needs to finish him. He needs to have a dominant performance, though. I think he needs to do that. People want to compare him to what John did to him, but John, let's not forget, John took down a two-time Olympian in Daniel Cormier. John's smashed everyone in the 205-pound division, sometimes twice over. Like, the guy is, like, people call him the GOAT of the sport, and what you can't go chasing after what John did. Like, he's got to go out there and he's got to get the win. He can't be burdened by what somebody else has done against Cyril Gane. He's got to go out there and get the win. I take it as, look, this time away from the sport, maybe it's kept him hungry, maybe it's made him more hungry, but he's got to have a dominant performance, though, to keep the fans interested in him, because he got a lot of media from the John Jones hype that they were going to fight. They were going to, and there was a lot of media that covered it back and forth. Now let's see, if you go out there and lay a goose egg, and you have a boring fight and it doesn't look dominant, then everyone's like, he never was that good. He wasn't going to beat John. I'm not saying you need to go out there and beat Cyril, in a minute 30, like John Jones did, but you got to go out there and have a dominant performance. If you go out there and you take him down, you ground and pound him out, and you put him to sleep, people are going to love it. If you go out there and you hit him with a 2-piece and knock him out, people are going to love it. So you've got to have a dominant performance. You go out there and just dominate and control and beat him down for, a round and a half. People are like, damn, this guy is good. So all the hype and all the media that you got before, it was well deserved, and they're gonna it validates that. So I think that's where you're at right now with Tom Aspinall. He just needs to have a good performance, a dominant performance against Cyril Gane.
All right, let's hop into this next question here. Sorry, I'm just trying to get organized to see which ones Miesha actually hit herself. That one she got from Zeke 662. Yeah. Miesha, with women's MMA growing rapidly, do you think in the future we would see a UFC card with women hosting main and co-main event?
I would say that in the CBS world, absolutely. I think in the CBS and Paramount world, I think you will absolutely see women hosting the main event and co-main event. But she did bring up a good point. We've been a lull in action right now lately for females MMA. And the reason being is we've had Valentina Shevchenko be so dominant. She had her hiccup against Alexa Grasso. That whole thing where they fought 3 or 4 times, it kind of held up the division for a long period of time. No new blood was making its way up. It just, people started losing interest in seeing the Alexa Grasso fight with Valentina Shevchenko. And then Weili, Rose kind of so much hype was around Rose Namajunas. And then Rose decided that she didn't want to be at 115 anymore and wanted to go to 125. And I think a lot of people were like, all right, well, the hype was all about you at 115 because you're so dominant at that weight, but you're also very likable. Everyone loved her. Like, she's very likable in terms of like her fighting style and her personality and her energy, all of that. But then she went to 125 and then wasn't getting wins. And it was like, all right, well, crap. Like, now our fighter that we were behind went up in weight class and then loses. And it's like, okay, well, now she's kind of stringing together some wins. It's like, okay, well, that the whole women's divisions are a little bit on stale right now. So now I think I'm hoping if Mackenzie Dern gets a win, then you're sprucing it up a little bit. You got some new blood in there. You've got something that's there. And so that'll be good. If she doesn't get a win, you got Jandiroba, whereas there's a lot of other female fighters that can make that run now that Weili is out. So there's fights to be made there. It's gonna be I think they're gonna get catapulted even more with the TV network. With CBS and with Paramount, they are gonna make them stars. The UFC is the best at making people believe that these fighters, not making them believe, they already are the best fighters in the world, but they are reassuring the casual fan like you are watching the best fighter in the world. And that's the UFC does that better than anyone. Absolutely does it better than anyone. So anybody they put in front of them, every fan's going to believe that that's the best female fighter in the world, or this is the number one fighter or the number two fighter in the world, and they're going to tune in. And I believe the UFC will eventually have a main event, a female main event and a female co-main event.
All right, carrying on from that, this kind of fits in there, and I love this question. I really tried to get it in with her, but we just didn't have the time there. Alejandro Gutierrez asks, Miesha, why isn't there a BMF belt for women tournament with Miesha, Valentina, Kayla, Amanda, Pena, Willie, Rose, and Dern?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to I think it comes down to like you're looking for the dog. Like Miesha Tate could stand and bang and trade, but Miesha Tate was also very aggressive, heavy wrestler, heavy grappler. Like she would come forward, she would take a shot, give a shot, but her main focus was getting the fight to the ground. Very much until the very end was the same thing for Ronda Rousey. It wasn't until recently when you started having fighters like Amanda Nunes, okay, Chris Cyborg. You could have seen that fight. That fight could have been for the BMF title for the females. You could also have said that the Weili and the Joanna Jędrzejczyk, that fight could have been for the BMF title. Rose Namajunas and Joanna, or Rose Namajunas and Weili, that could have been for the BMF title. But when you get into the other matchups, I mean, it's very hard. I mean, Juliana Pena could have been in that mix a little bit because of what she did to Amanda, in that first fight. But like I think they're looking for a specific style of fighter to put that belt around. I think that's pretty obvious when you have Gaethje, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway, fighters like that fighting for it. It lets you know exactly who they're looking to, from Nate Diaz and Masvidal. It lets you know exactly who they're looking to strap that belt around.
Next question. Zeke662. Last one for me. I've been waiting for you to come on. What do you think of the women coming out of the Contender Series? I think their fights, I mean, that one's kind of targeted way towards Miesha. Sorry, Zeke, we didn't get to that, but we definitely appreciate the question. He's asking, what does she think of the women coming out of the Contender Series? She did touch on that, Zeke, a little bit with the just kind of current state of women's MMA. So, go back and listen to that. Josh, you have any comments there as far as that?
No, I've only watched the Dana White Contender Series that some of my former teammates have been on. That's about it. Like we film on this time and it literally wraps like right when we're filming.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I have not been able to see a whole lot of the Dana White Contender Series. I've gone back and watched them, but mainly like just to watch my friends that are fighting.
Alejandro Gutierrez asked, first of all, he thanked Miesha for all she's done for MMA, the toughest and happiest moment inside the cage. And does she have any rituals? I guess that's really on for her. Alejandro, obviously can't get to that one. If you have another question, Alejandro or Zeke, just drop them below in the comments. I'll just read them off. I'll find them and read them off. Just drop like a secondary one for Josh if you guys want below there. But yeah, sorry we didn't get to those guys. Josh, let's move on to the next thing here. Hold on, I'm just get organized. I got these comments from Joe Rogan. He says that Jon Jones and Alex Pereira is the biggest fight in human history. Here's what he says: the Jon Jones Alex Pereira fight would be probably the biggest fight in human history. As a matchup, you have the greatest of all time in Jon Jones and arguably the most destructive striker that's ever competed. He did also comment when I heard the thing he said about this. He said he would want it catch weight at 225 to kind of make it fair. Curious on your thoughts on this.
Look, Joe to me is the best at hyping up fights. But if you say that Jon Jones versus Alex is the biggest fight in human history, I mean, I guess you're not taking into consideration boxing, right? Because you had Conor and Floyd. You also had Floyd and Pacquiao. You also had there's other fighters in terms of in fights. If you're talking fights, if you're talking MMA fight, you still have Conor and Habib. That fight did 2.5 million views, 2.6 million views. I don't think that this fight would even scratch that. Maybe back in the pay-per-view days, like when it was doing well, but I don't even think it would have done that those numbers. There was just too much animosity. Conor was a huge star. John's never been one to deliver. Now, are we just talking in terms of the excitement of it? Are we talking, at this moment, absolutely, it's the biggest fight to make. I don't think there's no other fight that you can make that will get this much pop at this moment in the sport. But to say that it's the biggest fight in human history, I'm gonna have to disagree. But look, I'm not saying that I'm not excited for this fight. I'm absolutely excited for this fight. If you want to put this fight together, I would love to see it. But there is also something, I believe there was something he said that he'd want to see it at a catch weight.
225.
Yeah, he said he wanted to see it at a catch weight at 120 at 225. I mean, that's just heavyweight division. So, but I understand why he's saying catch weight. Both guys come in and weigh 225. And and then they both have an idea of how much they weigh. It really just is. It's just the heavyweight division, though. So I mean, that would just be a gentleman's bet for them to come in and fight at 225. I personally would want to go the other way. Is that Alex can make 205? He's the champion at 205. I don't know if John can, but I believe he can. I think John can make 205 again. And if John wants to make a return for a big money fight, and I'm Alex, I'm thinking to myself, and I'm telling the world, I want to beat John Jones at the weight class that he dominated for so long. Because if I beat him at that weight class, I am now the GOAT. I am now the greatest fighter of all time. I beat John Jones at 205. I understand that if Alex was to go to heavyweight and they were to fight heavyweight and he had to beat Tom Aspinall, that's a very tough fight for Alex at 38, 39 years old. That's a very tough fight for him. John's an extremely tough fight for him, period, just stylistically. But I would love to see that fight at 205 for Alex's title, which used to be and former belonged to John Jones for the last 10 years. I mean, the UFC, the story writes itself. That Alex Pereira does something that nobody else was able to do, is beat Johns at 205. That's one. And two is like he did it in such a short period of time. I mean, he became the 85-pound champ, then goes up to 205, becomes the 205-pound champ. I mean, if I'm the UFC's PR people, the story writes itself. It's easy for me to market that and just run with it. This is like, if it was DC, if it was myself, like I did this all the time for Bellator. I did it all the time for Strikeforce. This is for sure the biggest fight. This is for sure the best fighter. This is what we do. You hear Chael Sonnen say all the time, like this is the best fighter of all time. Like this guy's the man. This guy's gonna beat this guy. And whether it comes to fruition or not, this is what we do. Like if you're someone that works for the promotion, or you're somebody that really feels strongly about how great this fight would be, I do. I feel great, like Joe does. I think this is a fantastic fight. I'm just not going to say it's the biggest fight in human history, but I'm going to say that it's definitely one of the biggest fights in history. It's one of them. But you've had so many just world-class fights. I mean, I go back into my data bank and I'm just like, man, this fight was good. This fight was good. All of these fights did big numbers. So I guess whatever it is you're judging it off of, are you judging it off of pay-per-view numbers? Are you judging it off of, I mean, yeah, the only way to really judge it would be based off of how many people tune in and watch. And it wouldn't be pay-per-view because now we're going to CBS. And by the time this fight happens, it'll be on CBS. That fight would headline a CBS card. Absolutely, 100% it would. So I love the fight. I'm excited to see the fight. I hope they get that fight together. I would just like to see it done at 205. And I know that somebody in the comments will be like, oh, well, he's not going back down to 205. You'd be surprised. Like Dana has said multiple times, John Jones is somebody that will shock you with how possessed he is when it comes to proving people wrong. He is that his mental fortitude and his mental capability to get things done based on what people tell him he can't do is insane. Absolutely insane. He's take it how you want. He's a fucking maniac, man. He's possessed. When it comes to proving people wrong, he'll do it just to spite you. Or he'll also tell you to kick rocks if he doesn't want to do it. But I think in this situation, he understands that this is a huge, big money fight on CBS, and you know they're going to pay him. You just got $1.1 billion for this year. I'm one of those fights. Time to pony up. And if I have to go to 205 to do it, John Jones will do it. I don't think it's a bigger fight at heavyweight. I think it just helps both fighters not have to worry about cutting the weight. But if you want to put the marketing PR behind it, I think you say, look, this really is to see who the best 205-pound fighter in the world ever was. If Alex beats John, you could say that Alex is the better fighter. You could say he did it in a shorter period of time. He's the one that did more in a shorter period of time and beat the guy who held that title for so long. The story writes itself. I've said that multiple times. And John being John, like, no, this is my belt. It will always be my belt. And when I'm gone, it'll still be my belt. No one will ever be able to say that it was their belt. It belongs to me. It was mine for the last 10 years, 12 years, whatever it was. No one's ever beaten me at this weight class. No one ever will. And he rides off into the sunset with his $40 million or $50 million paycheck. That's how I see that going. So that's going to be that. That's a huge fight. It is a huge fight.
All right, let's hop on to this next one here. Kamaru Usman is talking comeback and his dream scenario. Just want to get your thoughts on kind of realistically here, what do you see as far as this potential for this? So Kamaru says, in this part of my career, the dream scenario is next fight, win the welterweight title, vacate, win the middleweight title, retire. Thoughts?
Okay. How old is he?
He is 38, I believe. Let's see. Kamaru Usman.
I was looking at it. Yeah, look, 38. Yeah. It's hard for me to say how realistic it is. I thought he was done, and then he had a great performance against Joaquin Buckley. I thought he was done. I was like, man, this guy, like, he can't wrestle anymore. Like, it hurts his knees are hurt. I mean, shit, he proved everyone wrong. I mean, I had him beaten Joaquin Buckley if he could wrestle and control. I was like, he's just so good at that. He can do that if he can get a hold of him. If he doesn't get caught in the process of coming in. But in this situation, I really was like, man, he looks so good against Joaquin Buckley. I can't write him off. But look, you can't take your time. You got to get right to the title shot. And I don't know if the UFC has basically told him, like, hey, we'll do you a solid. We'll give you one more shot at the title. You'll fight the winner of Islam and JDM. This is what I think is going to happen. If Islam wins, Ilia Topuria fights Islam at 170. If JDM wins, I think Kamaru Usman fights JDM. That's what I think happens. Because like guys like Kamaru Usman, I think that they have a good enough relationship with Dana and the UFC. And I think he's probably laid it out to them like, hey, this is kind of what I want to do. I want to fight this one fight. I want to get a title. I want to win that. I can beat JDM. And if he beats him, then he'll vacate and let whoever else fight for it. And he'll go to 185 and probably try to fight for the title there. And that it'll probably be Hamzat. We've already seen that fight in a 3-round fight. Let's see it in a 5-round fight. So that makes like, if you're the UFC, you're always looking for angles on how to sell whatever it is, pay-per-view or whatever fighter it is, whatever fight you're trying to put together. You're always trying to find a way to put it into a marketing tool. And how can I spin this, or how can I push this so these fans and some of these casual fans want to tune in? And this fight right here, Hamzat being so dominant against DDP made Kamaru Usman look like a fucking god. It made him look like he was like, holy shit. You had a guy that came in on 10 days notice or 5 days notice, whatever it was, went the distance with Hamzat Chimaev and arguably won the 3rd round, or did win the 3rd round in that fight. you have that conversation piece there where you're like, man, like if he beats JDM for the title, if Islam loses and he fights JDM, I don't know if Usman would fight Islam. I don't know if he would, but if it was JDM, I think he would slide right in, fight JDM, and that's kind of a bad matchup for JDM. Usman's style of wrestling, his physical size and strength, all those things, he's a problem. He's always been a problem. That's why he's a multiple-time world champion. That's why he gave Hamzat all he could handle. I mean, coming in on 10 days notice, no cardio really, and I mean, survived the first round, but then had a great second round. Wasn't good enough, I don't think, to win the round. But then in the third round, I think he possibly won the third round, if I recall. But regardless, still, like I could see him going up to 185 and challenging for the title there. I could definitely see it because you have guys that are there right now that have fought for the title. Like I'll go through some of these guys, right? But you also have guys that are waiting there patiently for a title shot. You got Nasruddin Imavov waiting for a title. There was a lot of hope for RDR, but RDR came flat. But then you got Anthony Hernandez, who's like kind of chomping at the bit right there as well. Kai Bahalo just lost. Brendan Allen, I think he's going to shoot up. I think Brendan Allen shot all the way up to the 5th spot. I think now. Let me refresh this. And let me see.
He did.
He did?
5.
Yeah. So, you've got fighters that are right there. I mean, it's kind of it's the lay of the land right now for the middleweight division. DDP coming off the loss, but he can't beat Chimaev. We just saw that. Imavov is probably going to be next because we know that DDP can't beat Chimaev. And I think the hope was that RDR was going to win. And so that you probably put RDR against Chimaev because stylistically that would have made for a good fight, but that doesn't make any sense now. So you really have got Imavov will be next against Chimaev. You've got Anthony Hernandez who's going to have to fight somebody. So I'm hoping that he fights DDP or maybe Sean Strickland. Maybe you have him fight Sean Strickland. But there's fights to be made there. Brendan Allen's there at number 5. Kind of waiting for whoever. I like Brendan Allen's call out. He called out DDP. He said, like, I think we'd be a great fight. I couldn't agree more. Sign me up, man. Take my money. Take my money. I'll watch that fight. That'd be a damn good fight. Damn good fight. So there's fights to be made there still. And then if you throw Kamaru Usman in that mix, I'll take it. I'll take the last little ounce of just great fighting from Kamaru Usman against any of those middleweights. I'd love to see it. So I'm a fan of Usman, man. He's been on the podcast, and I had said that certain fighters were going to beat him before in the past, and he proved me wrong. So I had to eat some crow, and I actually had to admit it on his when we had him on the show, and he was a great guy about it, great sport about it, and I remember those things, and so I can't root against him, man. Guy's a stud. Guy's a multiple-time world champion, done something that many wish they could do. So absolutely a blessing, man. To if he wants to fight at 70, cool. If you want to fight at 85, cool. I just think there's fights to be made for him in either division. So what else you got?
All right, I got a story here to wrap up on, and then we will do the last of the questions as well here. So this one actually got sent in to me just to get your thoughts on these comments. It was actually on Mighty Mouse's podcast with Luke Thomas. And the headline obviously here is MMA has become an aggressively right-wing sport. I'm going to read off to you just the kind of full context here of what was said by Luke Thomas, but just wanted to get your reaction to this. Obviously, former fighter, that's how you made your living. And now an analyst and commentator on the sport. Just want to get your thoughts on this. So Luke's on DJ's podcast. He makes these comments. Here's the context for you. He says, dude, like, let's just be honest. It's become an aggressively right-wing sport. I bring this up to say some people will like that. Some people will not like that. I'm not trying to tell anybody they don't have to like that if they, in fact, do. In fact, what I'm quite aware of is even if I did, they wouldn't listen. It's not really about that. It's not just because someone has a separate set of politics. Believe it or not, I have actually just endless people in my orbit who don't share my political opinions on a personal level. It's not even that. It's just that it has gotten to a point where they'll espouse things and say things and then do things that I just don't rock with. It makes it a little bit harder for me to personally connect to their stories, but I want to be very clear about this. That's different than me saying you shouldn't do that. That's not what I'm saying. I only live for myself. That's what I mean.
I look at it. There's a couple ways to look at this. He's made like, yeah, he's on one side of the spectrum in terms of not spectrum, but he's on one side of the
Ayo.
yeah, on the one side of the aisle where he leans one direction politically. It's hard to say these things when it comes to the sport. Is it only because you work in this sport? Because I didn't hear these things and I didn't hear these things when, when everything was going on with the NFL, when everything was going on with the NBA, when everything was going on with other sports. Like they were very vocal about censoring people, telling people they couldn't wear stuff but then also allowing them to wear things that were, very
One-sided.
controversial. Yeah, very controversial. Like I didn't hear, but you could say the NFL is very left leaning. You could say the NBA is very left leaning. I mean, but why is it such a big deal that MMA is right leaning?
I mean, I guess you could even like question that. Is it right leaning, or is it just the fact that Donald Trump attends shows that is the takeaway?
That can't be the takeaway because he also attends the NFL. He was the first president to ever attend a Super Bowl. So look, I think what it is that people want to sometimes control what other people say. Like they give him the mic and they say stupid shit. But that's the one great thing I love about the UFC is like let them say whatever they want. Because let them put their foot in their own mouth. Let them destroy their own career. People will do that. But it's their right. And they're like, "Oh, this is the promotion. They should control them." No, why would anybody want to control them? These fighters work for the company. Like it's no different. Like I don't think people should be canceled. I think it's bullshit. I've always thought it was bullshit. I mean, I fought Nate. I got done. I made some comments about about how I supported gay marriage, but I didn't support them calling it the same thing as marriage or something like that. It was like something along like just call it something else, but it's the same thing. You get all the rights, you get everything else. I said because then when you call it the same thing, that it would end up being like, they would say like, all of a sudden people could, marry this or marry that or whatever it was. Anyways, it just came down to it got blown out and people were trying to cancel me. I've always felt like trying to cancel people and get them fired and all this it's stupid. It's so dumb. Like if you don't like what they say, turn them off. Like there's a lot of celebrities that I loved their movies. I just don't watch their movies anymore. That's all you can do. Like complaining about it online and writing all these articles about it or doing whatever it is. And I'm not saying Luke does that. I'm just simply saying like I've read a lot of articles by by journalists and talking about whether it could be free Palestine, whether it could be Israel stuff, or it could be anything to do with hands up, don't shoot, all of the cancellation stuff, all the stuff that came up through the sports of NFL and NBA and everything else. People are trying to get people fired. I think it was the dumbest stuff ever. Like, I'm not condoning what these people do, but I think trying to ruin people's lives, they will ruin them themselves. The Charlie Kirk situation really, people lost their jobs over that stuff for saying dumb things and doing dumb things. So I in this situation, I don't think that the sport is considered to be right leaning because Donald Trump comes to the events because he's friends with Dana White. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's right leaning.
And Josh, you could also argue that Kevin Lee supported Bernie Sanders, went to rallies and talked on behalf of Bernie. When he was kind of at his peak. Tyron Woodley did the Black Lives Matter thing when it was when he remember the press conference where that's all he replied. So you could argue that like it's not that it's right leaning, it's the freedom of speech is very much left alone in the space, right? Especially in the UFC level where the guys are at their kind of the guys have the biggest views, the biggest audience. Free speech is left alone, and therefore you get the people that are heavily leaning on either side of the aisle to express their beliefs, and that applies to both sides of the aisle. It doesn't just apply to the right. So it's an odd thing to say that it's a right wing sport just because you might not like that the president goes there. I mean, that's the only real thing you can really tie to. Let me just add this from Zeke, because Zeke wants to chime in here with the super chat. I don't think it's right wing, just a Dana thing. MMA is the only sport that would allow you to wear any flag you want and say whatever you want. It's a free country. Let's end the show with that.
Yeah. It's not. I don't think it's a right leaning sport. I also think that it's a climate thing right now, and in this country, the climate is definitely leaning to the right because of what's happened over the last 4 years. That's it. That's really what it comes down to. A lot of these people that are leaning to the right now, they're actually in the middle. They're not even conservative. They're not Republican. They're not right leaning. They feel, I think, in the last 4 years, they feel betrayed by that side, by the left side. And they swung a little bit to the right, but they're definitely not right leaning. They're probably I think they're more moderate. They're more independent voters that just were frustrated over the last 4 years. And so I don't think the sport is that way. I think it really is just because the president comes to events doesn't make it a right leaning sport. Like I said, he went to the Super Bowl. President never done that. And I also want to remind people, it's historic that a president would come to our sport. Do you guys like? I don't know if Luke was involved in the sport when back in 96, 97, 99. I don't know. Luke and I've had Luke on the pod and we've talked, and I don't get into political stuff with him because I know we don't agree. Okay, but I still got a lot of respect for Luke. Luke is a fantastic I don't know, a journalist. He's a fantastic person when it comes to talking fights with and everything. But ultimately, like, it's a blessing to have a president come to our events. We were fighting for fucking TV time. This sport almost went under until Spike TV took it over after the Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin fight. Let's not forget that. Now we have the president of the United States showing up to events. That's insane. That puts this sport on another level of just athletes being able to be welcome into the White House. Remember, we were considered human cockfighting. And now you've got fighters walking into the White House meeting the president, and the president coming, them jumping the fence and shaking his hand. Like, let's just look at that as a positive thing. Look at it as a positive thing. Let's not take away the negative. And the last thing I'm going to say is, it goes across the board for every sport. Leave politics out of it. I know we're talking about it right now, but it was talked about because of the Mighty podcast and Luke. But bottom line is we shouldn't be talking about politics at all in any sport. NFL, NBA, leave it all out. And if an athlete wants to talk about it, go ahead and you guys can talk about it. We pay you to play the game. Okay. We play you to step inside the cage. And if you get that mic time, go ahead and say what you want. You may lose support, you may gain support. But like I said earlier, there's plenty of actors and actresses where I loved their movies growing up, and I couldn't wait every time they had a movie come out. I don't even bother anymore. There's so many movies that I don't watch now because of the actors and actresses and just the stupid shit they say.
All right, we'll wrap this topic up with Zeke yelling, "MMA is going to the White House. That's huge." All right. Yeah. And then let's hit Zeke's other question, because Zeke did have a question from earlier. So, Josh, do you think UFC would eventually get rid of the heavyweights, or maybe just put a cutoff on it, like max weight would be 225?
I don't think so. I think that weight class is set. Like, it's set by the commission. You would have to find another. That's a big John question, to be honest. Like, I'm not sure if there's a 225-pound weight class. I don't think so. I think it goes 205, then I think it goes to heavyweight. There might be one, but look, there's already not enough heavyweights. So why would we put a 225-pound weight class? Because Cyril Gane, Tom Aspinall, they're all bigger than 225, and I don't want to see them cut down to make 225 and then not have. They barely have the energy. Not those two guys, but most heavyweights barely have the energy to go 3 rounds. And now you're going to have them cut weight to make 225 and see if they can go 5 or 3 if they're fighting for a title. Like, nah, just let them eat as much as they want. At least they'll have energy to get themselves past round and a half, instead of just laying on each other. I think the heavyweight division it's going to go ebbs and flows, right? The UFC had the really weak heavyweight division because Strikeforce had them all. We had Alistair Overeem, we had Daniel Cormier, we had we had all these heavyweights that were really Bigfoot Silva, Fedor. We had all these heavy Fabricio Verdum, guys that reinvigorated their career after they left the UFC, came in and they had great fights with each other. And then the UFC took over when they bought Strikeforce. They moved all the heavyweights in. And then we had about 3 years of great heavyweight fights. And then now they're all gone. And now you're going to potentially get some more that come trickling in. It's going to be that way for almost all the weight classes, especially the 85, 205, and the heavyweight division, is because those are the heavier weight classes, and those heavier weight classes have tendencies where those athletes go somewhere else that makes them more money. Like, think about this. We've gotten former football players, former, athletes, whatever it is, become fighters, but they're the bigger guys. Greg Hardy, right? Former football player. You have other guys, those athletes, they're going to stay in college now with the NIL deals, making millions for 6-7 years now. They're talking about not even having a amount of time that you can play in college anymore. There's not going to be a, years that you're allowed to play. It used to be just 4 years of your activity you could have. And they're talking about not doing that anymore. They're saying hey, as long as you can make the team, you can play. So NIL money is going to control that whole situation in colleges now. So you may see a ton of athletes that we thought we were going to get, but now they're going to stay in college for 7 or 8 years, making $2-3 million or $1 million a year, playing a sport they love, as long as they're taking one class. So the sport's going to be dealing with a lot of that as well. College wrestlers, they would come out of college wrestling and they would go to the UFC, or they would train jiu-jitsu. They'd train, to go wrestle, professionally or internationally. Now with the NIL money, some of these guys like Gable Steveson. I mean, I was told that he made a little under $1 million for his last year of wrestling. I mean, if you're someone that can if you can extend that for another 2-3 years and wrestle and still make $1 million a year, just wrestling and taking one class a year, you're going to probably end up doing that. So
last question here from Alex Johnson. Josh, is it weird to you at all that Alex is in talks of being a GOAT when he's relatively unproven on the ground, when we say DJ, GSP, John are top 3 for complete and well-rounded fighters of all time?
I mean, it does. It does. But to do what he did in such a short period of time, and let's not take away what he's done. He's got power in his hands, and it's not his fault that in these weight classes that he's fought, there's not a lot of top level wrestlers. You know what I mean? You've got Chimaev there, but then he bounced out, and then Alex went up to 205 before Chimaev really made a run. So it outside of that, none of these other guys were going to be, none of them are real top world class wrestlers. In the 185-pound division. Then I go to 205, and you've got none of them are top level wrestlers. You got guys that are good strikers, and that's about it. So if you couldn't beat Alex at 185, you couldn't beat him at 205. It's not his fault that there was no wrestlers in his weight class at the time. That's what happens in this era, right? John, in the beginning of his career, was fighting guys that were, Lyoto Machida, to be honest, I know he ended up going up to 205 when he fought in Bellator because he didn't want to cut the weight anymore because he was older, but he's not a big guy. Shogun Huma, not a big guy. John was bigger than everyone he fought, everybody except for Gus, and Dominic Reyes. And those were the two guys you could arguably say when he had to fight someone finally his own size, didn't do so well. I mean, he did well, he still won, but I'm saying it was the first fight was controversial with Gus. And the Reyes fight was controversial to this day. So I think when you look at it, like Alex has done a lot with what he has. It's not his fault that there was no wrestlers in 185 and 205 when he was there and he was dominant. But what he's done in such a short period of time, just considering his skill level, I mean, let's not forget, like it's not like everyone's just going out there and double legging him, taking him down. People haven't been able to take him down. And the ones that have shot, but they're not great wrestlers. So I'll give him that. But like no one's taking him down, controlling him and dominating him. Like he does train with Glover Teixeira. Glover is one of the best like game planners. He's also great on the feet, got great jujitsu, good wrestling. Like, Glover won a title at 40 years old. Let's not say that like that's not something. Like he knows how to train guys like Alex that are in their late 30s. So I'm not going to take anything away from Alex. If Alex was to fight John Jones and beat him, then what would we say? Would we still say that he was never tested because he beat an old John Jones? I mean, that's the question to be had now. Are we going to say that he was never tested against anyone in their prime? Or he was never tested against someone who could wrestle? Well, John can wrestle. If he knocks out John, what do we say then? There's a lot. I don't know I don't think he beats John, just to be honest. But I'm simply put, like if he does catch John, whew, man. I mean, do we start saying that he's the GOAT? I think we do. Then are we going to say that he was never tested against wrestlers? You can't say that. You just fought one of the best wrestlers ever in the sport. Somebody who's taken out a 2-time Olympian and taken him down several times. So I don't know. Look, there's always going to be parts in every sport, right? When you look at NFL, it's like, oh, the Steel Curtain was the best defense, and this was this, and this was that, or whatever it was, right? But the different era of time of sports. And in this era, Alex just so happened to be at the 185-pound and the 205-pound division when there was no great wrestlers in that division. So that's not Alex's fault. But Alex did everything he was supposed to do, and he fought when he was injured. He fought when he was hurt, and he had great performances. He knocked dudes out, and made the UFC a ton of money. He's absolutely fantastic. Fantastic fighter. So I don't know. I think you should give him credit no matter what happens. All right, guys. Hey, that's going to wrap it up. Hit that thumbs up and hit the bell and notification. I want to thank you guys so much. Like I said, I've got Drew Dober tomorrow morning. I'm going to film that, record that, and then we're going to put that out sometime this week. So if you hit that notifications, you guys will see when we have that conversation and when that interview drops. And then next Monday, I will have Sean Brady on as well. And just a reminder, hit the bell and the notification because on Sunday evening, I'll be going live with Angelo, my buddy from Bad Takes, and we'll be breaking down and doing the full preview and breakdown of the pay-per-view event on Sunday night. All right, I don't have a time yet set, so that's why it's important for you guys to hit that bell. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys so much. Share my content wherever you guys can, and thank you guys so much for continuing to support me after all these years, and we are out.